Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, this is going to be a video that I'm going to review by the boxing channel known as AKHi TV. AKHi, I wish I was a black man TV. Anyways, when it comes down to it, I just thought that this video was going to be very interesting and peculiar. This is once again going to be a video, and this is more than likely going to be the last video that I'm going to make on the Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois situation, because I've already kind of talked about it a couple of times and think that I've made my points quite clear. But once again, I thought that I would talk about this because AKHi TV is a part of the LDBC and new media. And what does it mean to be a part of those channels? What it means, once again, is that you're going to keep a scoreboard at constant times. What it means is that you're going to make excuses for your favorite fighters. They like to basically proclaim to you that they're these honest and objective observers when really they're not. All they are basically is a pro-black cult. Certain people get offended when I say that. I really don't give a damn. It is what it is because that's what they are. There's a reason why they attack certain fighters like that of a Usyk or a Fury or a Lomachenko or an Inoue or that of a Canelo Alvarez. And then when it comes to time to possibly criticize other fighters like Davis, Gervonta Davis, or Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford or Shakur Stevenson, someone like that, if the time ever were to come, why they don't keep the same standards. Because once again, the way that they look at it is that, well, if you're going to put our fighters through all that criticism, we're going to keep the same energy and we're going to put all your fighters through that sort of criticism. And we're just going to have just as much favoritism as you guys. And they'll even tell you that themselves. Take a look at Champ Side. Take a look at Dante's Boxing Nation. They will tell you at times overall how biased they can be. After a while, if you let someone speak long enough, they'll tell you what they're truly about. In AKHi TV, you can clearly see what he mainly is about. But AKHi TV, in regular fashion, and I pretty much guessed this, it was only a matter of time, where there was some sort of allegation of racism afoot or major controversy because Usyk has the complexion for the protection, and that Daniel Dubois allegedly got robbed in the fight against Oleksandr Usyk. But I just think that this video was very particularly interesting. I thought that I would talk about it because a lot of people always like to make controversy out of nothing. And there really is no controversy about this fight. There really is nothing because whether you think that the punch was legal or not, whether you disagree with me or not about it potentially being a low blow, and in my view, it was borderline low, at the end of the day, it was to the point to where it could have been potentially either called a low blow or potentially a legal blow. Now, in the NFL, when it comes down to it, for example, if we're going to compare it to another sport, pass interference calls are called a lot within that of the NFL. Of course, that's when a cornerback or a defensive player affects that of a receiving player, I believe, either that of a tight end or that of a wide receiver, and intercepts their course of action to catch the ball before the ball ends up getting that to their hands or getting that close. Now, in certain calls, a player, they may be called for a pass interference call just by slightly tugging on that of the shoulder or that of the jersey. Other referees, they may slightly let that go. But at the end of the day, if something is looked at as borderline, or if something is looked at as potentially being in the gray zone of the rule book, you can't necessarily get mad when it's called either way. It just is what it is. And when you talk about this was in that gray zone. It was not clearly, a legal shot in my view. It was a little bit low. Now, if you called it a legal shot, that's up to you. Personally, in my view, it's a little bit low. But AKHi TV, the regular, person that he is, the, creator of chaos that he usually is, he's going to try to stir up the pot a little bit and allege something that, of course, there really is no basis of. He really has no foundation with his argument. But what is AKHi TV a part of? Once again, he's a part of the LDBC and new media, the excuse-making population. The people that does not take self-accountability, the people that like to make excuses for their favorite fighters. And that's a big part of the reason why Deontay Wilder, why he fed into all that bullshit in the Tyson Fury fight of him allegedly being cheated, because Deontay Wilder pretty much stood for that population, for that demographic. The pro-black population that made excuses for themselves, have no acceptance of self-accountability. And when you don't have self-accountability, and you don't take responsibility and try to improve yourself in the best way possible, even if you think that you possibly got wronged a little bit, it's always important, no matter who you are, whatever demographic you are, to improve yourself and take self-responsibility and self acceptance to the highest levels, because that way you can be as successful as possible. When someone does not accept self responsibility, when it comes down to it, then they're not ever going to have success, because you can never change when you put the power in others' court to change around you. And that's what certain people do whenever they make excuses in every single loss or in every single piece of adversity within their life. You're never going to improve because you're not looking at yourself. You can't change how others treat you. You can't change others. But what you can do is change yourself and try to act more intelligently, and try to act in a better way so you can make things more successful for yourself. And unfortunately, Daniel Dubois, he is getting into, that little narrative of him being allegedly cheated. No, there was no cheating going on. If Daniel Dubois was cheated, it was because he cheated himself, because he did quit in this fight, just like he did in the Joe Joyce fight. And I gave him a little bit of breathing room and leg room with that, of the Joe Joyce fight, because he broke his orbital eye bone. But in this fight, he looked like a completely pathetic fighter within those final few rounds. Usyk really got to him. But anyway, we're going to see what Mr. AKHi TV has to say within this video. Let's get straight into it. Let's see what they have to say.
I want a good, clean fight. Right here is good, Ethernet's low.
And what you'll notice is that, of course, he shows a video of that of Tony Weeks. But once again, it also depends on that of the referee. There are also certain referees that would call that low, and certain referees will point at the middle of the trunks or the top of the trunks, and they'll say, right here is fine, anything below that is low. And oftentimes they'll point to the middle of the trunks. Once again, this is just my view. Unless the shorts are very high, which they were not in this fight, anything that is on the upper part of the belt line, in my view, would be a legal shot. This was not one of those punches. It was a punch that, touched all the shorts, and on top of that, touched the complete middle of the belt line, and debatably, according to certain angles, touched a little bit of the bottom parts of the shorts. So once again, you cannot get mad unless you had a narrative or a want for Mr. Oleksandr Usyk to lose in this fight. And why does AKHi TV want Oleksandr Usyk to lose? Once again, because these guys feel very incompetent about themselves, and they're really hoping that they don't have to hear about Canelo Alvarez or Oleksandr Usyk or Vasily Lomachenko or Tyson Fury anymore. They're trying to basically take them out within the media first, so when they finally do possibly lose a fight or have their downfall, they look that much worse, and they can make them look like something that was a complete hype job from the get-go, or someone all in all that was never that talented. That's the reason why they do things that way. They can put their favorite Black American fighters on the pound-for-pound list and say, see, these are the true fighters that actually belong there.
Breaking news of Derek Chisora. He came out giving the realest take on the controversy that took place.
And don't get me wrong, old media, quote-unquote, has a very similar tactic with some of the fighters that they like to disrupt a little bit, with Guillermo Rigondeaux, or Floyd Mayweather Jr. or some of the other fighters, to replace them with that of a Usyk or Lomachenko or Inoue or Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. They also have a very similar tactic, but new media has also adopted that tactic very well as well.
With the referee cheating and robbing Dubois of his victory against Usyk. Derek pretty much pointed out how they turned this fight into a political event. This is pretty much what it was.
No, it's not really a political event. Really, the only ones that think that it's a political event is really one of two parties. Either A, if you're one of these pro-black guys from that of the LDBC or new media, and you were really hoping for Oleksandr Usyk to lose, excuse me, because once again, they're trying to justify putting him outside of their top 5 or their top 10 pound-for-pound list. And I guarantee you, when they put their next top 10 pound-for-pound list, they're going to say, well, we can't have Usyk on our top 10 pound-for-pound or top 5 pound-for-pound because he really should have lost his last fight. Even though once upon a time they had Deontay Wilder within their top 5, when he surely should have lost that first Tyson Fury fight. And they had Jermell Charlo within their top 5 pound-for-pound or top 10, even though he probably should have lost the first Brian Castano fight. And he lost to Tony Harrison. He never left their top 10 pound-for-pound list, so isn't that quite peculiar?
You had the president of Ukraine give a speech to support Usyk right before the fight began. We all know the fight took place in Poland, the second home for the Ukrainian people. The majority of the refugees are there, so the writing was on the wall for this daylight robbery by.
But like I said, the only two parties that ever thought that this was an actual robbery, or at least the main ones that did, were that of the LDBC and new media channels, let's be real, that of the pro-black fans, it is what it is, that have a racial horse in this race, because they don't like fighters like Oleksandr Usyk, because they know what they're going to have to hear from also the other racist or racial fans if Usyk continues doing good. You know, their worst nightmare is overall hearing guys like Usyk or Canelo or, you know, Lomachenko or Tyson Fury in with the all-time greats like Muhammad Ali or that of, you know, Joe Louis, other all-time great black fighters. Because their worst nightmare is that, you know, basically they'll lose that advantage because in their view, you know, athleticism and also in terms of that, sports are the only advantage that they have. What that tells me is that they don't truly believe within their own intelligence and that they don't believe that they are capable of great things other than that of athleticism and sports, because they keep such a scoreboard in terms of that of sports, in terms of that of athleticism. And once again, it's a great thing what some of these athletes can do, but they put way too much energy a lot of the times into these sporting events, and that's why.
This corrupted referee that needs to be investigated because he did the same thing during the Anthony Joshua versus Usyk rematch. The moment Usyk got hurt with a body shot versus Anthony Joshua, he called it a low blow when it was a clear.
Well, Anthony did hit him a little bit below the trunks, although it was still a little bit on the belt line. But what I'll actually say about AJ is that in that fight, the trunks are actually pulled up a little bit too high in that rematch, I believe it was, with Oleksandr Usyk. In this fight against Daniel Dubois, the trunks were not pulled up high. They were along that navel line. And when you're hitting, you know, that lower part, when it comes down to it, you know, right below the navel or as low as what Dubois hit him, yes, it was completely on the belt line and possibly even a little bit on the lower part of the trunks. You're hitting him right in the pubic bone. And I'm sorry, but when you're starting to hit someone within that of the pubic bone, that is a little bit too low.
Body shot, just like the Dubois fight. Nevertheless, here is exactly what Derek Chisora had to say. Check it out.
That low blow, was it low? Was it on the belt?
We need VAR. First of all, there's a black guy fighting in a white guy's country. Bunch of white people around him. The ref is white. The judges are white. What do you expect? A black guy, it don't matter. Even if you knock Usyk down, they're just giving it to him.
I'm going to leave a link for the full interview in the description.
Now, Derek Chisora, of course, he said that there was possibly a little bit of racism or a racial component about it when it comes down to it. Does that surprise me that Derek Chisora would say that? No, not at all, because because Derek Chisora, what we know about his career is that he was a guy that was an average contender. He made a lot of excuses throughout his career to overall why he did not win some of the biggest fights of his career. And on top of that, I'm not sure if he was joking or not. Sometimes he is a guy that's a little bit of a joker, but if I had to guess, more than likely, probably not. And what we also know is that Derek Chisora, and once again, I'm not doing much research into this part of the interview, but Derek Chisora also at one point in time did face that of Oleksandr Usyk, and I'm sure there was a certain amount of people, because I remember a certain amount of people saying, oh, you should have won that fight against Oleksandr Usyk. They're trying to hype this dude up because he's the next big white hype. So I'm sure Derek Chisora a little bit in his mind thinks that, you know, Oleksandr Usyk, because of some of the people in his corner and some of his promoters telling him that he's a little bit more bark than what he is bite, that of Oleksandr Usyk, that is. And this is why it's always very important. And this is why true friends, they'll be honest with you, sometimes even brutally honest, because when you give someone delusions like that, they'll go on believing it for years upon years upon years upon years. And even when you're trying to spare their feelings, you're actually doing more damage to them a lot of the times than what you are helping them. Now, don't worry. Sometimes we will have to spare people's feelings and maybe possibly stretch the truth a little bit, truth a little bit, or lie to spare someone's feelings because it might be a little bit better for their mentality. But when you talk about something like this in terms of improving, no, that is not something that's going to help you out. And the reason why it's so damaging is because it does not lead to better success. It does not lead to improvement. And it takes them years upon years, if not even decades, to improve upon themselves.
Description box.
Because by the time that they finally figure out that the people around them are full of shit, they're going to be like 50, 60 something years old. And they're going to say, damn, if only I had actually had true friends around me or people around me that actually would have told me the truth or told me instead of what I wanted to hear, what I needed to hear.
Below. Now, like I said in my previous video, body shots on the belt line are 100% legal. Since fighters...
Well, once again, it also depends on the referee. Like I said, when you talk about an NFL situation, there will be times where a slight tug on the jersey, where more than likely it won't be called. There will be other times where it will be called. It depends on the referee. When you're getting to that middle of the belt line or possibly even a little bit on the lower part of the trunks, and when you take a little bit of another angle or even this angle, a part of the glove is on a little bit of the lower part of the trunks, when it comes down to it, then at the end of the day, you cannot complain about the call. But why is AKHi TV complaining so much about this call? Because once again, he does not want to hear about Oleksandr Usyk, about how great of a fighter that he is anymore. He wants to try and cross Oleksandr Usyk off of his list, and they will use any justifiable reason to try and cross him off of their pound-for-pound list and for debatable all-time great fighters.
Belt line above their belly button. So did Usyk. As you all see above, during the moment of impact, you can't see Usyk belly button because his belt line was above his belly button. However, after
it was, but not by much. And that's why I'm saying when you're landing a punch that is that close, a part of it probably landed on that of the pubic bone. And when you get that low, when it comes down to it, then yes, that could be considered possibly a low blow.
After the fight, Usyk tried to do damage control by claiming that he had his belt line below his belly button. But we all know that's a lie because people lie, men lie, women lie. Old media definitely lies. However, your eyes...
Yes, and so does new media. New media also lies, especially with the bullshit. When it comes to certain racial narratives, the same narratives. Once again, all new media is that they just try to do the same narratives that old media does, just with their black fighters. That's all they are. That's why they call themselves new media, because they're the new version of old media. They're just a different type. They're for a different demographic.
Don't lie. And just like you all can see on the pictures above during the fight, Usyk belt line was above his belly button, especially during the moment of impact, which further proves that Dubois landed a legal blow. A 100%.
Well, once again, that could be debated. There are some referees that would call that legal. There are some referees that would call that illegal. Either way, I would have not minded it. In my personal view, when you land below the top part of the belt line, that in my view is getting a little bit too low. So in my view, it was low.
Clean body shot, not a low blow. This is not up for debate, since you all can see on the picture above. The belt line was above Usyk belly button because we can't see Usyk belly button. Second of all, when Dubois landed the body shot, portion of the glove landed above the belt line. On Usyk,
a portion of it also landed below. So let's not be disingenuous here, Mr. AKHi TV, because there are angles also showing it landing a little bit below
actual skin. So how the heck can that reach Usyk balls? Unless Usyk balls are in his stomach. Respectfully, even when Usyk got dropped, did you guys see him reach for his balls? Nope. We didn't see that. Like any other fighter that get hit in the nuts reacts. Instead, all we see is that he tried to cover his stomach because he got hurt in his stomach. Then you see old media try to do damage control, claiming that Usyk would have gotten up if the referee ruled it as a knockdown. But Usyk was laid out on the canvas for 3 minutes and a half, paralyzed from pain as he couldn't even move. So who are you guys kidding? Usyk
Well, once again, the reason why I also can't call it a knockout is because the referee called it a low blow, and at that minute, Usyk knew that he had whatever time that he wanted within that of the next 5 minutes. Because if the referee had started counting, who knows? Usyk may have gotten up at 9 or 10 or somewhere around there, and the fight maybe would have continued. Now, Usyk may have been highly compromised, but at the end of the day, when it was called a low blow, Usyk knew that he had all the time in the world. So once again, no, this was not a knockout. Was the punch a little bit low? Yes, in my view, it was a little bit low. Now, certain people can call it legal all they want to. If you thought it was a legal blow, that's up to you. I would understand, because it was borderline legal to illegal. In my view, it was a little bit low.
couldn't have beaten the 10 seconds count because I bet you if Ryan was given 3 minutes and a half to recover, or up to 5 minutes total, then Ryan wouldn't have gotten knocked out by Tank either. Shit, even Pacquiao when he got knocked out by Marquez. If Pacquiao was given 5 minutes to recover after he took that 2 minute snap against Marquez, then Pacquiao would have gotten up too. Marquez wouldn't have knocked out Pacquiao. Most likely, Pacquiao would have ended up knocking out Marquez just like Usyk ended up knocking out Dubois. Another slick thing old media tried to run with is show pictures of Usyk belly button and his
Now, this was when Usyk's trunks were a little bit more pulled down. They were slightly above his navel when it comes down to it, his belly button, of course. But take a look at when AKHi TV tries to put where his trunks actually were. Take a look at how high he's going to place Usyk's trunks.
line after the fight. After Usyk ended up pulling his trunks down in order to do some damage control. Man, that don't count. We talking about during the actual fight. More importantly, during the moment of impact where we can clearly see.
Now look how high he's trying to put his trunks. When it comes down to it, Usyk's trunks were not that damn high in this fight. The dude is trying to put his trunks up by his nipples. At the end of the day, Usyk's trunks were slightly above his navel. But at the end of the day, once again, when you take a look at it, the bottom of those trunks are going to go around to that of the pubic bone. So is it very possible that he got hit within that of the pubic bone? Of course it is. And on top of that, hit within the cup a little bit to where it could have jarred something. Yeah, of course. Was it as straight of a low blow as what Zab Judah landed to Mayweather? Or what Cotto landed against Zab Judah or other fighters that I've seen? No. But at the end of the day, yes, it could be constituted as low.
Usyk had his belt line above his belly button. This is a fact. This is not up for debate. Which further proves Dubois got cheated. And
no, he didn't get cheated, but at the end of the day, you're going to keep rolling with that because, once again, you need a fighter like Usyk off your pound-for-pound list. So you're going to justifiably do whatever you need to try and put him off your pound-for-pound list.
By this corrupted referee that needs to be investigated, charged, and locked up for robbing Dubois of a life.
No, there needs to be no investigation about it. At the end of the day, it was a punch that was borderline low or borderline legal. And on top of that, boxing does not have instant replay when it comes down to it. Now, in my view, was the referee a little bit too active in the fight? Yes, and I think that he should have allowed probably some more body work from that of Daniel Dubois because some of those punches didn't look low. However, I will say this. Some of those punches did look a little bit low from Dubois. Even some of the ones afterwards, they were getting to that point of also slightly touching that of the under part of the belt. And on top of that, right in the middle of the belt line. I'm sorry, to me, that's low. It is what it is. And to certain other referees, depending on the referee, it also would be low as well. So no, there needs to be no investigation about this. It just really depends on the referee. And in my view, if I were a referee, that would be a punch that would be low as well. All right? It is what it is. Notice that AKHi TV is not showing the angle of overall the punch that looked like a part of the glove was landing on the lower part of the trunks. Very interesting. But referees that should be investigated, and this is not one of those cases because, first of all, boxing does not have instant replay. So the referee, he took a look at the punch. It looked relatively low. Even if you thought that it was a legal punch, at the end of the day, you can logically understand why the referee thought that it could have been a low blow. And in my view, it was. Now referees that needed to be investigated, because this was a referee that, overall, I think was just doing the job to the best of his ability. At times, I thought he was a little bit too involved within that of the fight, or warning Danny Dubois a little bit too much later on. But, I kind of get it, because some of those punches were a little bit lower. It is what it is. I seen 2 low blows in this fight, at least, according to my calculations, according to my standards. But when it comes down to it, there is no instant replay. And from his perspective, especially since Usyk was ducked after that, it can look like that of a low blow. So I can't really judge the referee too much for that. Now, referees that needed to be investigated, or that needed to be possibly charged with the law or something like that, was that referee that was in the Abner Mares versus, Agbeko fight, whatever the hell that one African fighter's name was that fought Abner Mares, where he just allowed Abner Mares to throw about 27 low blows in one night, and he clearly was landing it all night. That was a referee that should have been investigated. That was a referee that should have been expelled and never allowed in the boxing ring again. Another referee that, could have been possibly investigated was that referee that allowed that one Puerto Rican fighter who's now in a vegetative state, Pritchard Colon, I believe, or Pritchard Colon, whatever his name is. That one fighter who got hit behind the head clearly several times in the fight. That's a referee that should never be allowed to get in the boxing ring again. Every time I've seen that referee, he's never done a correct job. He's never done a good job. That's a referee that could potentially be investigated and get in trouble with the law. Not this. This is not an example of that. But once again, AKHi TV, he knows who his fan base is. And they're all suckers. They're the most emotional fan base within the world. So it is what it is. They're going to keep trying to attack that target fan base. So it is what it is. And once again, they're going to try and justify any reasons to put these fighters like Canelo, Usyk off the pound-for-pound list.
Achievement. But who are we kidding? Most likely this referee is going to end up getting a raise and a higher position to referee next time. Last but not least, notice how no fighter from the United States, more importantly, a black American fighter from the USA, have yet commented on this fight and this controversy. Think about that. Where is Shakur Stevenson when you need him? And not just...
Let's actually rewind that. As you see here, the punch, a little bit of the thumb, or whichever part that is, not the thumb, but the lower part of the glove, it looks like it's also landing a little bit on the bottom part of the trunks. So at the end of the day, yes, one could qualify this as an illegal blow. In my view, it would be. It is what it is.
A black American fighter from the USA have yet commented on this fight and this controversy. Think about that. Where is Shakur Stevenson when you need him? And not just Shakur, but every single black American champion. Where are they? All these fighters that you usually see comment on fights, all of a sudden, they not commenting on the biggest controversy of the year. Instead, some way, somehow, they magically all disappeared. We all know what time it is. This is what I call the struggle of acceptance. All of your favorite black American fighters are afraid to piss off the racist fans, even if it's the truth. As long the truth is meant to piss off the racist fans and...
Right, so because black American fighters, because they're not commentating on this, probably because most of them know that that's a borderline illegal to illegal shot. There are certain fighters that believe that it's legal. There are certain fighters that believe that it's illegal. So if you're a black fighter and if you're not commentating on this, you want to be accepted by that of the racist or the Latin or the Caucasian fan base. You're a coward when it comes down to it, and you're not doing your due part, and your due diligence. That's the narrative that AKHi TV is trying to get you to do. Same with Dante and Boxing Eagle and a lot of these other guys. They try to get you to pressure you into stating something overall, even when it may possibly not be right, as long as it follows their narrative.
Go against old media.
And if you do say something positive about one of these fighters, it's because, you're a coward and you want to be accepted by that of the Caucasians and the Latinos. It's not possibly your own opinion. And don't get me wrong. That's not me saying that some of these black fighters don't want to be accepted by that of the other demographics. But not everything they say is always going to be just because they want to be accepted by that of the other demographics.
Agenda, they not going to speak up. And that's why they all quiet. It's crazy because they should be the main ones speaking out, because this could have been them. Dubois could have been them. Any one of them could have been Dubois and got cheated. However, even though this controversy affects them directly, they rather stay quiet because it's a fighter on the coincidental list that got cheated against a...
This is a problem that affects them directly. No, it's not really a problem that affects them directly at all. Because I guarantee you that if that same punch landed on one of them, they may also be complaining that it was a potential low blow. So at the end of the day, no, this isn't really a problem that affects them directly. Like I said, AKHi TV is trying to make something out of nothing. He's trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. It's not really anything to worry about. There is no really big controversy about it. People, of course, want to make some sort of controversy about it. There really is no major controversy about it. At the end of the day, it was a borderline low blow when it came down to it. Many people, of course, in a big fight or in a big sporting event, they get very mad if they believe that an upset can possibly occur and it doesn't occur, and they'll use many allegations of cheating or all sorts of shit. Like for those of you that remember the most recent Philadelphia Eagles versus Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, there was a passing interference call or a pass interference call at the end of the game by James Bradbury, who I believe was formerly on my favorite team to watch, the Carolina Panthers, because I like the Carolina areas. He ended up having a passing interference, I believe, call, or a pass interference call against him within that of the final play of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it cost the Kansas City Chiefs to get a first down within that of field goal range, or not field goal range, excuse me, but within that of end zone range, and caused them to get a touchdown, and it caused the Kansas City Chiefs to win the game. And a bunch of people were bitching, moaning, and complaining about all this cheating and corrupt, and then it turns out the next day they looked at it, and it was a pass. It was a pass interference. It was. Once again, it just depends on the referee. And boxing, once again, is another one of those sports. There are certain calls that are borderline, and this was one of those calls. This was not something that was completely black or white. It was in that gray area. At the end of the day, it was counted as a low blow. I also would have counted it as a low blow. So there's really nothing that is hugely controversial about this fight. What Daniel Dubois really should be worrying about is how he mentally folded overall, like that of a pancake that dropped to the floor when it came down to it, fell out of the frying pan within those final 2 rounds. He was completely mentally shot, within those final few rounds.
Fighter on the hope list, and they clearly understand that. I bet you all these black American fighters, if it was the other way around, man, they would have been the main ones protesting as we speak. If Dubois had the complexion for the connection, while Usyk had the complexion for the neglection, you best believe Shakur and the rest of the black American fighters will be screaming, Dubois should be the heavyweight champion of the world. And that's the sad reality. Nevertheless, Usyk gimmick is up, and everyone knows now that he has a glass body. Just like Vasily Lomachenko. We all know type.
Well, I'll say this. Usyk, in my view, defends to the body a little bit better than that of Vasily Lomachenko. But he is going to have to defend a little bit better. Because every single time that I've seen Usyk a little bit uncomfortable in a fight, it usually was because of a very good body attack. Now, to be fair, it looks like he defends it a bit better than that of Vasily Lomachenko. Because Vasily Lomachenko, when it comes down to it, he has a high guard a lot of the times, and it can be very useful, but he also does not, and I'm not saying he doesn't twist his body well, but he just doesn't defend his body as well as what you would think someone of his skill level really should. And that's a big part of the reason of why he lost the Devin Haney fight and also the Teofimo Lopez. Had he been able to defend to the body a little bit more, he probably could have won both of those fights, at least a little bit more clearly. Of course, he ended up losing both of those fights, but he was so uncomfortable in the Teofimo Lopez fight, especially because Teofimo Lopez was throwing that jab to the body very early on, and also the right hand to the body, and Lomachenko didn't really have an answer for it. Usyk seems like he has a little bit more of an answer for it, but he does seem a little bit vulnerable to the body. So once again, it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening with Usyk. But AKHi TV just said the gimmick is up with that of Oleksandr Usyk. So what is he trying to say there? He said the gimmick is up. Basically what he's saying is that he's exposed now. He's a guy that, he's clearly not as skilled as what a lot of people try to say that he is. he's overrated, and he's a guy that eventually is going to suffer a loss and get exposed for the hype job that he is. That's what AKHi TV is trying to allege there, because that's what they try to do to a lot of these fighters that are not Black American fighters.
Tyson Fury was a little concerned prior to this fight. However, after this fight, most likely Tyson Fury was licking his chops while watching this fight, with the facts being laid out. Drop your thoughts in the comment section.
But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. I just thought that I would comment on that with the AKHi TV video. That's pretty much about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I don't believe that there's any controversy here. Of course, a lot of people are going to make something out of nothing. A controversial fight would be that of the Abner Mares versus Joseph Agbeko fight, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, where there was like 40 low blows in one night. Or the referee with Pritchard Cologne, or Pritchard Cologne, however you pronounce his name, against that of, I believe, a Black American fighter, don't remember the dude's name, where he was allowed to hit Cologne, I believe, behind the head several times, causing him to be knocked out and in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. All right, so those are investigation worthy. Or when Roy Jones Jr. ended up getting robbed in the Olympics, or Lara versus Paul Williams, those are investigation worthy. All right, those are certain things that deserve an investigation. Not this, but it is what it is. Anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.